Hello and welcome back to Collegian Unfiltered. This week I'm joined by two guests, the President and Vice President of UPUA, Zachary McKay and Lexy Pathickal. Guys, thank you for joining me. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having us today, Ben.
We're doing good, thank you.
So for those students at home or maybe incoming students who don't really know what UPUA is, could you give a brief explanation as to what it is and what student government does?
Yeah, so UPUA, we are considered an advocacy organization at University Park, and as a lot of people reference, otherwise known as the student government at University Park. So a lot of what we do, and it's basically what we did over the campaign trail, is talk to students and communicate with them, kind of see the changes that they want to see at Penn State. What have they been pleased with? What do they think could come about in different capacities of change? But really, we are that link between students and the administration to make sure that Penn State is better than we found it. Yeah.
So what does a typical day during a summer session look like for, the president and vice president? Is it, 9 to 5? Is it constant meetings? Do you have free time?
It's certainly not 9 to 5. Sometimes it's 9 to 10. Other times it's 8 to 5. It really depends. And it's what you make of it, right? So during the campaign, Lexi and I really emphasized getting out and talking with as many students as possible. And we're still finding ourselves doing that, interacting with different clubs. I just had a call with the Veg Club to talk about one of our initiatives, which was to work on a dairy-free dessert in the Berkey Creamery. So it's really just a matter of scheduling and sitting on different boards with administrators. Just a lot of Zoom calls.
So some of the key issues you guys said you wanted to address are racial injustices on campus, sexual assault, food and housing insecurity. So what are some of the things you guys specifically have seen that you want to address and fix?
Yeah, so obviously with our campaign, we ran on a couple of ideas just that were fostered from different students that we had conversations with. In terms of like the racial injustices that we've seen, a couple of our ideas were having retention officers, specifically in partner with the PRCC. This was not our idea. This was more in talks with other students as well as the director of the PRCC, Carlos Wiley. This has been something he's been advocating for a while now, and our idea was that the more resources that students have, the more that they can thrive at Penn State. Another thing was combating racial bias, specifically during the time of the pandemic, just because a lot of people from the Asian communities have been receiving a lot of discrimination. I'm sure there was the one example in State College of two students' apartment being essentially vandalized with eggs being thrown at their door, and that kind of behavior we do not tolerate. It's something that we don't accept, and we really want to fight against that.
I'd say, too, on the issues of sexual assault on campus, obviously it's something which we put in the limelight on the campaign, which many students had come to us and said, this is a problem, what is Penn State going to do about it? And which we're still seeing, with the Title IX regulations just recently proposed by the Department of Education. But really getting at the crux of the issue, which is not addressing the issue of sexual assault, of housing and food security, is one of our primary focuses, really, because that's where we can grow the most, right, is by recognizing those problems and choosing to do better. We're working on restructuring the executive branch to include new roles and coordinators to focus on those issues year-round, because they're not things which we can focus on 1 or 2 weeks out of the year, but which we have already had students apply. I've been in interviews on. These are really passionate and expert students who know the best ways really to combat, to prevent, and to respond to sexual assault and misconduct, sustainable food procurement, all of these things which the student government has really just neglected in the past.
So something that always comes up near UPUA elections is the presence and potential influence of secret societies, such as Lions Paw, such as Skull and Bones. Could you first explain, what secret societies are, and then explain, how they can influence decisions and potentially infiltrate UPUA?
Yes. So thank you for asking the question. The history of these groups, these secret societies, has long been, the idea that we're honoring student leaders for their achievements and their accomplishments, and so that we can, in many ways, foster honor and tradition throughout the years that Penn State is here with us. Right? They were called hat societies long ago in the 50s and 60s, and members used to actually be given hats, and it would be a subtle way for students on campus to know that you were one of the most trustworthy students to go to with student concerns, and that they would be raised to the administration as effectively and quickly as possible. But recently, I believe they've really become nothing more than friend groups. And when it comes time to talking about elections and UPUA, you find that the selection process for those groups sometimes occur before the elections themselves, thus kind of asking, well, how is this impacting elections? Who might be involved? Who might not be? How are certain members of your campaign or endorsers in whatever way might be influencing it? And then how is that going to influence your administration if you win? Lexy and I have been very forthright about the fact that that kind of influence, if it were to ever exist, has to be 100% visible to the student body, and that you must be honest with those students who've duly elected you to represent them. Students, you should be able to ask me if I'm involved in one of these things, and if so, what does that look like? If not, great, but how are you doing? How are you working to ensure that that kind of influence stays nothing more than really a friend group?
And something that Zach and I have always wanted to reiterate, and I think I actually also mentioned this before, was that in no way do we think that, like, if you are involved in one of these organizations, you are automatically a bad person or you are someone that is, like, against transparency. That's not what we're trying to say. I think, if anything, we want to reiterate that, accountability is super important. And I think that's, like, something that Zach and I hold very dear to our hearts. So in the same sense, with secrecy, there's also a lack of accountability, and that's just our one concern with it. And also the fact that this question is being asked makes it inherent that they're not secret societies, that many students know about them. So in that sense, I feel like there isn't actually any humility in it. And I think I think that's just morals and ideals that Zach and I hold very dear to our hearts.
So with all that said, are either of you in a secret society, or would you consider joining one if they approached you and asked you to be involved in one?
Yeah, so I have not been approached, and my attitude towards it is that, again, like what I said, I hold accountability, honesty, and transparency very dear to my heart, and honestly, it's who I am as a person. It's a part of, like, my character. It's how I hold myself in any situation that I'm in. And if I have to sacrifice those ideals to be in it, then no.
As for me, not in one, haven't been approached by one, and certainly wouldn't join anything which would in any way inhibit my ability to be honest with the students who've elected me. I think it's about as simple as that.
So sticking with unfiltered tradition, we are going to do our rapid fire round now. It's very simple. I'm just going to ask a series of this or that questions, and then Lexy and Zach are going to give me their answers. Sound good, guys?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So the first question we have is grilled stickies or creamery ice cream?
Creamery ice cream.
Creamery ice cream.
Next question, Sheets or Wawa?
Wawa, hands down. Don't fight me on it.
Also Wawa.
Also Wawa. Fictional Penn State alumni, Dwight Schrute or Bruce Banner?
Bruce Banner.
It's Bruce Banner on my part too.
Do we not have Office fans, or?
I like The Office, but I'm a big Marvel fan too. So.
I like The Office. I just have not watched many episodes. Please don't judge me on that.
And then finally, better place to take a photo at, the We Are statue or the Lion Shrine?
This is so easy for me.
Lion Shrine. Lion Shrine, definitely.
So that's going to do it for today, guys, on Collegian Unfiltered. You can follow the Daily Collegian on all our social medias right here below. You can also visit us at collegian.psu.edu. Zach and Lexy, once again, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. Hope you have a good one too.